Thank you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know as we're talking college football on this channel year-round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. We've talked Georgia, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, A&M, Florida, Ole Miss, LSU. Today, it is the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee coming off of a 9-win season. Their over-under at FanDuel is 8.5 wins. Money coming in on the over. Let's dive in because there is so much to discuss. Let's go back to last year really quick. Look, bottom line was I was highly impressed by this team and this now program that Josh Heupel has put together. Remember, 2 years ago, Tennessee wins 11 games. They go to the Orange Bowl. They beat Clemson. And, of course, they do it with Hendon Hooker for the majority of the season. I think, was in Heisman contention. We know what happened. You feel awful. But I bring it up because going into last season, we kind of knew Joe Milton, maybe his limitations. How good is Tennessee going to be? They end up winning 9 games. But I think what was more impressive to me was the ability of Josh Heupel to kind of change up how Tennessee played. Now, I know Tennessee fans will tell you that everything that Josh Heupel does is predicated on the ability to run the football. But 2 years ago, they were 4th in the country in passing. Hendon Hooker chucking it all over the field. Last year really became more of a defense, run game, line of scrimmage team as they finished 9th nationally in rushing and in the top 25 nationally in scoring defense. And so, again, you go from top 5 nationally in passing to top 10 nationally in rushing. Change of demeanor, change of, I don't want to say style, but it just is interesting how they evolved and changed as a program last year. In terms of the schedule, listen, we don't have to dive into it because I want to get into this year. Again, really largely handled business. Overall started 5-1 a season ago. Now, obviously, the one was disappointing. Florida, for whatever reason, Tennessee fans will be the first to tell you, they can't figure out the Florida thing. I know they won 2 years ago against Florida, but overall, even in a down year last year, Florida finds a way to win in the swamp. But to their credit, as I said, they start 5-1. They lose to Bama. They win 2 more, including against my UConn Huskies, to start the year 7-2, enter mid-November 7-2. Unfortunately, back-to-back losses to Missouri, to Georgia, and any kind of serious playoff talk. But I'll tell you this, you enter this year at 7-2 in mid-November, you're going to have a shot at the playoff. Worth mentioning, by the way, even with those back-to-back losses, you close with a big win against Vandy. And maybe more importantly, you beat Wisconsin in the bowl game. And that leads to this season because it's all about Nico time, baby. That is right. Nico Iamaleava, 5-star. We know the background, but I'll tell you this. I've been covering college football for a long time. I don't know that I ever remember Tennessee fans being as excited about this coming season as they are. And it's all about Nico, right? Coming off the bowl game where he accounted for 4 total touchdowns, 1 passing, 3 rushing. And again, we know the pedigree. 5-star, 6'6", has all the tools. By the way, we're recording this right after Josh Heupel picked up another 5-star. George McIntyre in the class of 2025 is I don't want to say signed, sealed, and delivered, but he's been committed. And then they pick up a 5-star in the class of 2026. So there is a real enthusiasm about Tennessee football right now. But again, it does center so much, in my opinion, on Nico Iamaleava and just what he is potentially capable of doing as a starting quarterback. Good news is, obviously, Nico doesn't have to do it alone, right? Mentioned the run game from a year ago. And I don't really expect them to fundamentally take a step back. Is if you look at what they did last year, I get that, yes, Jalen Wright is gone. I get that Jalen Wright is gone. Excuse me, tripped over my own words there, over 1,000 yards rushing. But this is an offense with the way that things are spread out, with a deep, returning, talented offensive line, should be able to run the ball. Dylan Sampson, 604 yards, 7 touchdowns a year ago. And I look at this team, again, especially with that offensive line, they're going to be able to run the football. For people who don't know about that O-line, 3 starters back, again, off of a team that was top 10 nationally in rushing. And worth noting, Lance Hurd, former 5-star, transfers from LSU. We're talking about potentially not just in the SEC, but one of the best offensive lines in all of college football at Tennessee. And now you add a vertical passing game that, let's be honest, really kind of wasn't really there last year with Joe Milton. We know it's not crush Joe Milton time, but inconsistent, whatever. If Nico's as good as advertised, he's certainly got plenty of talent to throw the football to. Squirrel White is back after 67 catches a season ago. Brew McCoy is back after injuries. Dante Thornton is back, the big wide receiver who transferred from Oregon a season ago. And also worth noting, some nice pieces coming in. Mike Matthews, former 5-star, class of 2024, is enrolling as a freshman. And Chris Brazell, I think, is worth noting there. 44 catches, 711 yards, 5 TDs at Tulane. I know that staff is excited about them. So even with Nico coming in, a lot of pieces around him behind a very good offensive line. Defensively, kind of interesting. As I said, listen, credit to Josh Heupel, credit to that staff. They have become a line of scrimmage team. That defensive front was filthy last year. I know Tyler Barron's gone. Weird offseason. I think what's the story on Tyler Barron? I think he committed to Ole Miss, then ended up enrolling into Louisville, and then transferring to Miami in the offseason. I know he's at Miami now. I forget if he started at Louisville, then actually ended up at Ole Miss, or committed to Ole Miss and ended up at Louisville, but he's at Miami now. But he's gone after last year. Good news is plenty of talent is back. James Pierce, we're talking about all SEC first-team guy, potential first-team All-American, 14 and a half TFLs, 10 sacks a season ago. So that's the kind of guy you want to build an offense around. But also worth noting, he's not alone. Omar Norman Lott is back, 6 TFLs, 5.5 sacks, 4.5 TFLs for Omari Thomas. Joshua Josephs, is back as well. And this was a team that, as a group defensively, remember, they were a group that was second in the SEC in sacks a season ago, behind only Texas A&M. Once you get past the defensive front, it will be interesting. A lot of new pieces coming in. Obviously, at the linebacker position, you lose Elijah Herring to transfer. He was your leading tackler. Aaron Beasley, second leading tackler. Good news is Keenan Peely is back. 62 tackles in 2022 before missing virtually the entire season last year with injury. And then I think the secondary is going to be interesting as well, because a lot of players are gone off last year's team. Good news is you have a couple nice transfers. Jermon McCoy comes in from Oregon State, had 2 INTs, 31 tackles a year ago. Jalen McMurray comes in from Temple, 39 tackles. Jacoby Thomas from Middle Tennessee State, 3 TFLs, 5.5 PBUs last season. So really, to me, if you're looking at Tennessee, I think that becomes the question, right? The secondary. How quickly can those guys get acclimated? How quickly will they be good to go? From the schedule perspective, man, is this one interesting, because you can look at this from a lot of different ways. Tennessee is never going to have an easy schedule, because unless they eliminate some of the rivalries, they're always going to have Georgia. They're always going to have Bama. They're always going to have probably Florida on that schedule. So Florida's obviously down this year, but right now the schedule still includes Bama and Georgia. But outside of that, they do miss some pretty marquee games, right? I mean, you look at the schedule in terms of who they have and who they miss. They don't have Texas. They don't have LSU. They don't have Ole Miss. They don't have Missouri. And some of the bigger games, as I said, Georgia at home, Alabama at home, Florida at home, etc. Out of conference, you play NC State on a neutral. I know people like NC State. I'm a little bit lower on them than most. But you look at the schedule, should be 3-0. And I know I'm jumping around on the schedule, so let me even backtrack, okay? Start 3-0, or you should start 3-0. Neutral site against NC State is the big one. And then obviously from there, the SEC opener at Oklahoma, it's everything, right? The Hypo Bowl, Oklahoma's first SEC game. There's going to be excitement. There's going to be enthusiasm at Oklahoma. From there, you get Arkansas, you get Florida, you get Bama. What's interesting is you open with back-to-back SEC road games at Oklahoma, at Arkansas. Then, and I don't know that I've ever seen this actually, 4 straight SEC home games Right in the middle of the year, the toughest stretch, Florida, Bama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, all at home. And then you close at Georgia, UTEP in the out of conference, and at Vandy. So again, you could look at that a lot of different ways, especially when we are talking about an over-under of 8.5, trying to go 9-3. There's a lot of winnable games on this schedule. Now, you obviously do have Alabama and Georgia, but hey, last time you played Alabama at home, of course you beat them. Georgia's a different beast. It's on the road. But you look at the schedule. There's a lot of wins baked into the schedule. And I think what's also worth noting, you get a lot of those back half teams, okay? Florida picked to finish 12th in the SEC. Arkansas picked to finish 14th in the SEC. Mississippi State picked to finish 15th in the SEC. Vandy picked to finish 16th. So of the bottom 5 teams in the SEC, you get 4 of them this year. You do get Bama at home. You do get Florida at home. But you also obviously go to Oklahoma, to Georgia. And so when I look at this win total, listen, I'll be honest. If I had if somebody gave me $100, put a gun to my head and said, walk to the ticker, walk to the podium or whatever you want to call it in Vegas, I probably would take the over of 8.5. I just don't know that I love it because, one, I know Bama, of course, is first-year head coach. It's a different deal, but that's still a very good football team. Georgia on the road is really tough. And so now you're talking about, are you going to be able to take care of Oklahoma on the road? What if you don't? Then all of a sudden, where are you at? I don't know. And also, the other thing is, too, Florida has been a thorn in your side historically. Now, Florida's bad. Under Billy Napier, you're at home. You beat Napier in Florida at home 2 years ago. But again, even Tennessee fans would sit there and tell you, Torres, we've had trouble with them for whatever reason. Now, the good thing is, like I said, a lot of bottom half teams in the SEC. Arkansas, that is a road game, but of course, who knows what's going to be happening with Sam Pittman by the middle of the year. But you get Arkansas, you get Mississippi State at home. You have to play at Vandy. My official over-under win total, listen, I lean over. I probably have to stay away here. You have a freshman quarterback. You have big questions in the secondary. Not saying they can't get there, but I think there's enough concern for me where I will probably stay away, lean over. But that's your official over-under win total on Tennessee. I like the Vols at 9.5 or at 8.5 to go 9-3. But when you're talking about a true freshman, and by the way, even some of those road venues, even against the bad Arkansas team, Arkansas is a tough place to play. Georgia speaks for itself. At Oklahoma, redshirt freshman quarterback. Stay away to me. I'd lean over. All right, I think that's it for this episode of College Football Betting with Aaron Torres. Do think it is time for me to get out of here. If you're not subscribed, please make sure to do so. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Music, wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure to subscribe. Also, make sure to rate and review the show. Go to College Football Betting with Aaron Torres. Again, Apple, Spotify, wherever. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search College Football Betting with Aaron Torres. That's all for the Tennessee Vols. If you missed any of the other ones, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Texas A&M, whoever, you can go back and listen. We'll be back tomorrow. I think we'll probably go with the Auburn Tigers. Talk soon, everybody. Be back. Auburn coming up.